All right. Welcome back to the podcast, Back to Game and Compute. Let's see if this is even recording. Um, so yesterday I finally started watching this Netflix show called How to Get Rich. Now, most of us, who have been in the side hustle space, in the space of studying finance and the stock market and all these kind of investment and things like that, we kind of usually get hyped up at the beginning. There's a process, right? You get hyped up in the beginning and you're like, yes, I'm gonna get money fast. I'm gonna get, I'm gonna make that $1,300 an hour, or like whatever the clickbaity thing says. Like, I think most of us go this route, right? It's usually through social media we get recommended different things, and then after a while, after delving into them, we kind of realize, this is scammy stuff, and we put it down, and then we become weary of anything that says anything about getting money or getting rich, or we're like, well, what's the catch? Like, maybe that means that they just did it and they did it once, and now they're saying, oh, you can do this, per hour, but then it's like, yeah, you can do it per hour, but it dries up. Or like, you can do it per day, but like, because they did it eventually. Like, say somebody makes $1,000 in a day, and like, I'm not saying you can't do that, but it's like, most of us aren't going to be making that kind of money. Most of us aren't. Now, I've reviewed people like Biaheza and certain people who, like, they really do actually do that. And like, you can even see on Iced Coffee Hour where Biaheza pulls up his finances and pulls up his store numbers and everything. You can actually see legit numbers. But usually, people can Photoshop anything. They can Photoshop a screenshot. So even on here, when you guys hear me talking about things, like, usually I'll try to post in detail, like what in reality it is. I'm not trying to put up like some clickbaity thing and waste somebody's time and be like, I thought I was actually going to make this money for free, and then it ends up being like, but no, I have to invest like $13,000 first, before I can make like a first $100, or like some ridiculous thing, that just like, let me just not mention that so people will click and listen or whatever. I'm not into that BS. I'm not into that at all. Times are not that desperate. I'm not here for that. I've dealt with that. So usually, my goal with a lot of those types of things isn't to get clicks. It's to, be a reliable source, so that when I am talking about stuff, even though I might not be very smooth with talking, you know, like, I get severe brain fog sometimes, and I have groggy days, and sometimes like I'm on the road, or I'm like, just tired, and I'm just trying to get episodes out and stuff, and I have trouble organizing, and my focus can be a little bit off, and it just depends on the day. Some days I sound better than others, and I'm aware of it too, but usually that's going to be the biggest concern with my content, is usually going to be the quality, either of sound, if I'm, you know, recording in places where I don't really want people to directly overhear me so often or so detailed, or if I'm recording in places where, I'm driving, or the AC is up, or the fan is on, or, somebody's disrupting me, or the upload just doesn't work, or whatever. Like, I have my own issues on my end, I'm aware of that. But I try not to have my issues be like scammy issues. My issues are usually going to be like, it just sounds messy. Like, something just doesn't sound like the best, quality audio production. And maybe mentally I'm not like fully as alert and, you know, focused as I need to be, but usually I try to provide content that's going to be on point so that when I'm giving you guys stuff, I can be proud of it and I'm not thinking like, oh, like, like I have a problem with that. Like for my own integrity, for, you know, the way I like to do things, I don't want to have to put anybody through all the BS I've gone through. I'd rather spare people from that stuff, you know. So if I do find stuff that's going to help people, then I do try to talk about it, but I try to give a more honest, detailed explanation versus like, let me just put something out that they're going to click on, you know. And and of course it's city by city sometimes, or depending on your niche or depending on your brand. Not everything I say is gonna like always apply to you, but I try to put stuff out there because I know, I think some of us are all on the same page, right? And so I came across that Netflix series called Get Rich, that Get Rich one. And I know it's been out for a while, but I put it off for a while because I was like, oh no, don't tell me now Netflix is becoming like YouTube and trying to clickbait. But then I was like, that's not really like Netflix. Like usually with Netflix, even when you try to find, shows about like the stock market or about finance, there's really not that much out there really. Like there's some docs about crypto and there's some stuff about like the Fed Reserve or like, different people like Mark Zuckerberg, like The Social Network, that movie, and different stuff like that. 99 Homes, like there's movies like that where it's like people starting a business or working in real estate or like something like that, but you don't really see a whole lot of like, it's not like YouTube where people are literally creating a brand out of such content. And so I tend to try to, provide value in that way. And when I came across this, when I first came across this, whatever this is, this movie or reality series, if you will. I gave one episode a chance. I didn't like the first episode as much as I've liked the next consecutive episode. So when I do start watching again, I'll be on episode 5. So I would say after the first episode, episodes 2, 3, and 4 were very good. The first episode was good, but it was an intro, But then they kind of delved more into it. Like for me, I liked seeing people getting more results a little bit more than just like the introductory kind of like assessing the problem. And me coming from a psychological background, one thing I would have liked to see more of is them delving into the psych aspect of it. And I don't really know the characters' names too well, but I can speak. I mean, it's going to be maybe a spoiler alert a little bit, but I can kind of speak to the characters, the ones that so far I'm kind of gravitating toward their process. But I think the show is pretty powerful. It's very enlightening, and I didn't start studying a lot into finance. Like I started studying more of like side hustles and practicing that kind of stuff, like probably like, let's call it 5 years ago, 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago max, because I know 7, 8 years ago max, but probably around 7 years ago, really, when I had a certain job at a clinic. um, that's when I started kind of doing side hustles more actively, like in person and online. But before, even way before that, I'd always been dabbling in like, eBay and like reselling and stuff like that. But I got way more into it once I was in San Diego, probably like my first or second year living in San Diego. Or like third year or so living in San Diego. Sorry, not first or second. Um, and then around 2020, I started getting more into the money side, like the finance side, like the personal finance side of things, dealing with my credit, dealing with my, like I had personal loans that I had taken out, dealing with kind of like learning about the psychology and emotions and behaviors attached to spending, and especially my own personal spending habits. And realizing how, when my mental health isn't at its strongest points, when my anxiety's high, when my depression is high, when my stress levels are high, that's when I make the worst decisions. Because I'm just like not thinking clearly, I'm not sticking to a plan, I'm not even making a plan. I don't even have the energy to like plan out or budget. So usually when I notice I'm in a state like that, and if I'm already like in a point where on occasion, the finances might not be looking too ideal, when I'm like stressed about something financially and, emotionally not feeling great and maybe even physically not feeling great, that becomes the hardest time for me to actually like keep towards my goals. And so when it comes to the psychological part of learning about finances, I think that is going to be key for most people. That's kind of what I see in this show. I mean, he does have this term that he uses, the main host uses, and I do like how he basically has a book and he has a business. He basically has this consulting business that he's created related to finance, financial support, financial help, and advising. And he has a book that seems to work. So it's like when you think about the marketing end of things, just looking at what he's doing, he's got a YouTube channel. I don't know. He's probably on YouTube as well. I think he is because people seem to know his content. So he's probably a YouTuber now, Netflix series, but has a book. At the very least, he's already got those things going for him, as well as consulting and individual clients. I think he has staff that work for him because it seems like there are people who call, at least in one of the episodes, somebody called him that was having trouble working with one of the couples because one of the couples wanted to back out of the series. And, because I guess they were having some conflict within their relationship, arguing. So I do want to break down a little bit of this series from more of a psychological perspective because the main guy talks more about the psychology of, he called, I'm blanking on the term, I didn't write it down, and he said it a few times throughout multiple episodes, but I think it was called money psychology or something like that. I'm going to try to get the actual term, but I think he calls it money psychology. And it's very structured. Now, I first got introduced to like financial planning, financial direction, and like, personally changing your own lifestyle with finances. I got introduced through Dave Ramsey's content. I don't know how long ago, but that was probably the first introduction that I came across that I could kind of see, oh, there is a strategy to this, like you get the information, you kind of lay out your issues going on, and you have to be very honest about it. So that's usually like the first step the honesty. A lot of people, you know, myself included, I've gone through experiences where I've kind of been like tricking myself, or like not being honest with myself and being like, yeah, my finances are good, like everything's okay. I can take out this money and go travel and go do this other stuff, and like, because I've got it, and then I'm like, this is not part of the plan. I wasn't trying to take out debt to go fly, to go do some trip, or like buy some ticket to something that was like some excessively priced thing, and or pay for some car repair or whatever. Like, I wasn't trying to do that. That wasn't the plan, you know. But I'll get a little bit um like off track sometimes, you know. Usually it could be either way. Like, I could either be feeling pretty down, or I could be feeling like super hyped up and just like not focusing and just be like all gung ho and like, yes, I want to do this now. I'm going to build this site, and I'm going to build this thing, and I'm going to pay for these ads, and I'm going to pay. And sometimes it works, you know. Sometimes it works just to have a really highly caffeinated weekend where I just like sit there and like bang stuff out. And it's definitely worked in my favor, but it's like, if I don't really have a plan, sometimes I'll burn myself out and be doing all this stuff, that doesn't really work. And I think the guy Ramit, who is the host of this show, the Get Rich show, as well as who is it? I think Andrew Tate, and I know his reputation, I know, but I think Andrew Tate was actually the first person I heard saying, some things that I heard Ramit repeating when I was watching episodes yesterday about, if you want a business, if you want a side hustle, if you want side money, a lot of people do focus on get the website, get the business cards, get the domain name, get an LLC, and they spend money and resources and time doing all this stuff, and it's like, the first thing you should focus on is getting the sales, get the money, because then you can use that money to cash flow all these other things later on, but sometimes what happens is you can spend so much energy on doing those steps, and if you think of how many days and hours and how much money goes into something like that, it's a lot, it's a whole lot to be like, I'm just gonna, put my money into this thing. And, like in California, an LLC is going to run you like $600 a year just to keep it open. A website with a domain, depending on your hosting, let's not even count hosting. Say you go free and get like crappy hosting through 000 web host, so you could technically get free hosting. Pay for a domain name, let's call it like $15 a year. Pay for a Shopify store. I think the first 30 to 60 days is free, depending on when you get it. Sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's 60. I think usually it's 60 days though. It's like free, but let's just say you're going to be paying nearly $30 a month for a Shopify store. So in California, you're already paying like at least like I can't do all that math. What did I say? So like 645 between your domain, your shop, your LLC. I mean, you're gonna have to, file taxes. That's not free. Once that time of the year comes for next year, you're gonna have to file taxes. And yeah, the Shopify fee is like $30 a month almost. So let's say you get 2 months off. So per year, that's like times 10. You're already paying $300. That's already over $900. For a year just to have your stuff set up. And it's like, are you gonna make $900? That first year. It can be a waste of money. So when you look at the numbers and do the math, sometimes that's what it's all about. And sometimes it feels good to be like, yeah, I'm getting this done. And I do notice that in myself as well. Like that's probably my biggest struggle is getting like hooked into the project side of things and like bombarded by the project that I'm doing and so overwhelmed by the project that I'm doing and so overly focused on the project that I'm doing. And I will have these freaking projects, you know, that I'm working so hard on. And yeah, all the back end stuff you will need to get it done, but it's like if you can just sell stuff on OfferUp or if you can just sell stuff on Craigslist or eBay, you know, I mean, I'm not saying every single niche and every single, you know, type of sales is going to work that way. Sometimes you do need an actual store and all this other stuff. But it's like you can easily spend time and money and energy and then get discouraged because, you know, after you run out of steam and after that like high of excitement wears off, you'll be stuck with a bunch of stuff that costs you a bunch of money and then you've already invested so much time and effort you don't want to let it go. And so you'll just be having stuff that's just like taking money from you where you don't really have a system of like how to make the money back. And so it helps sometimes to do it the other way and start with how to make the money so that if you need to scale it up to pay for some other expenses, you can scale it and pay for it that way. You know, if you need to pay for, if you get paid traffic, if you need to pay for marketing, advertising, whatever it is that you want to pay for, if you need to pay for it, you might have the money actually coming as far as what you're earning through sales. You know, another mistake I've made is like, you know, taking too many courses and getting so bogged down with the work in the courses, then I'm like, I'm not even directly applying any of this stuff. Like sometimes it's like you just need to take the action and take the steps. And it's almost like that can be the hardest part sometimes. Um, is, you know, and that's where I find myself sometimes just when I sit on something for a couple weeks that I needed to be doing, I'm like, I'm just going to pay somebody to do it for me because I'm clearly not going to do it anytime soon, you know, and stop kidding myself. And I'll just be like, I'm just going to pay somebody to do that. And that's what I did this morning. I was like, there's some stuff I've been sitting on for a while and I'm like so unfocused to do it. And because I know I can't really get my head in a space to really do it, I'm like, I don't want to slack on my April goals. April's almost freaking over. So the only way I'm going to reach those goals is to outsource these tasks to somebody else and I'll pay them to do it. And I don't pay a lot of money. I'm not paying like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, even though I could, but I'm like, that is going to actually keep me on my track, on the goals. And sometimes that's my fix is just pay somebody to do the stuff that I'm slacking on, which I know, you know, but you know, those are action steps. They're action steps that need to be taken that I haven't been taking because, you know, it's hard for me to really create a system and a schedule and, you know, because I've got a lot of moving pieces and a lot of stuff changing. Like with podcasting, things were pretty smooth for a while, and then all this weird stuff happened with Spotify. With one of my stores, things were smooth for a while. Then I had all these issues with PayPal, and you know, eBay is just a mess, and then the economy is a disaster, and you know, all these different things are changing all since the beginning of this year. And so I've definitely had a hard time this year trying to figure out what in the heck, you know, I'm trying to do. But I try not to get too unfocused and start spending money on things that aren't going to make me money pretty quickly. Sometimes it can feel like a pipe dream, and you know, sometimes you look up and you're like, where did all that money go, you know? So like one thing that did help was you know, over time getting those stimulus debit cards, those stimulus checks. That is the kind of money that I invested in things like these projects and this other kind of stuff. and then other money when I was getting bonuses from work, and then the money that I had coming in from these projects, I would just kind of recycle it back into the projects. But usually, if I was making money, I would use that money to make more money. And if I wasn't making money, I would try to figure out what the heck isn't going right. And usually, the consistency, the algorithm really does reward consistency. So, sometimes it does take a couple days and sit back and, like for podcasting, for example, pre-record a whole bunch of stuff, so that I can kind of get ahead on some other days. Like if I feel like recording and, that's what I want to do is record today, then I'll record today. Even if there was something else maybe that part of my mind was like, oh, do this other thing, and it's like, no, I'm just going to record today and, get ahead that way, because then it's like, okay, if I have these episodes out of the way, then I'll have more time and energy to focus towards this other stuff that I need to do. But like, it's not impossible, but sometimes it does take a lot of taking a step back and like seeing what's happening. And I think this show really puts that into perspective, the whole aspect of taking a step back. Because that's something that I feel like a lot of us need to do, take a step back, reflect, review, like see what's actually happening, see what's working well, see what's not working well, and if there's not, if those steps aren't being taken, it can be easy to lose focus or get off track and feel like, oh, I'm on course, and then be like, I'm way off course, So it does take being able to have structure and balance within yourself. So I'm going to go through, maybe over the next couple days, I'm going to see if I can go through some of the topics that come up in these shows, in these episodes, and see if I can kind of focus on that psychology that they mentioned, that kind of psychology, that money psychology, and kind of add to that, because I feel like they touch on it, but it's like they don't really, at least not yet, they haven't fully gone into any kind of psychological kind of like they call it money psychology, but they haven't really touched on the actual psychological things that I have been seeing when I've been watching these episodes. I'm like, oh, there's like this couple might have this going on, and that couple might have that going on, and like I think it's important for people to know and to realize and to see. So I'm gonna go through some of those things, and I'll hit the first episode first, but this is just kind of my intro to all that. I don't know how long I'm gonna do this for, but I don't know if I can go per couple, because the episodes, each episode kind of follows a person or a couple and their finances, and then some episodes there's more like different characters being added, and then other episodes they're still building on what happened versus like what's the past plan. Let's follow up with what they've been doing and then see kind of the results of what they've done so far. So I do want to focus on that. But yeah, so I'm gonna get into some of it, but it might just depend on how much I watch of this show, and then how much other people want to tune into me actually talking about it. But it might be of some value. I mean, I think right now, a lot of people mostly just need to make more money now, but on the other end, it's like there are ways to downsize that, I feel like, once I started realizing that, like once I started finding methods to detach my emotional pain from losing stuff, you know? Like, once I got my head space clear of, I need this stuff to be happy, like, once I kind of got my head away from that, it became so much easier to make better decisions because I was no longer buying things I didn't need, to kind of help myself maybe feel happier or better temporarily, and I was no longer holding on to stuff that was costing me, um, just to, make a buck, or just to feel more, you know, happy or secure. So, I think I talked about this before, but I had some really bad habits at some certain points in life where I used to pawn stuff. And I had some stuff that I had in pawn that I really actually wanted, but because I just, couldn't even find the energy to like call places on time, like, and I did have debt, and I wasn't talking to my bank, I wasn't talking to any of the debt collectors. I was mostly just like, let me get my rent paid because I'm going into debt all the time, and it was just like a cycle that I just ignored the fact that I was dealing with a lot of emotional issues and other stuff, and I was just like, well, I can just take out a loan every month, or I can just take out this every month. But it got to a point where I eventually hit a point where I remember one day, this is a long time ago, but I remember one day I had to take work off, literally because my rent was going to be due on, like, let's call it Monday or Tuesday, and I had to take the day off because I wanted to apply for payday loans, and I'd kind of maxed out, applying for that crap, I kind of maxed out on it, and my credit was bad, and I no longer qualified. So I remember that, and I remember another time where I called like a financial support person because I was like desperate and kind of like, I don't know what to do because like I'm not gonna make rent. Like, everything that I owe, when my next paycheck comes, basically I'm gonna be left negative just from all the withdrawals from all the stuff that I owed. Um, and it was those times where I was like, I need to fix this shit. Like, like, I literally can't let it keep going on. So I had to make some hard decisions at those times. Um, and there were a couple times like that. Like, it happened maybe twice, where I was like, and there were close by to one another, and those are the first times where I was just kind of like, this is the last time, because I think the way I got out of it, full transparency, I think I hit up my mom, and I was like, yeah, I need money for rent, and I was like, I think it was like twice that I remember asking her, but the first time I remember, and then the second time I remember asking her, and I was like, okay, I will never ask her again, like, I don't want to ask her for money. I don't want to ask my parents for money. It wasn't a lot of money, and I paid it back, but it was still like, I was like, I definitely have a problem if I'm hitting up people for rent, people who aren't even working. How do they have more money than I do? You know what I mean? And it's like, and I was working hard, it's not like I was having like an easy job. Like, my job was freaking hard. And I think just because my job was hard and I was partying so much and just not tending to my finances and not wanting to spend any time really adulting, because things were so complex. Like, I had such a draining job that I really didn't know how to like take care of myself while I was like handling that job. Like, all my energy went into the job, went into my clients, but I was drowning, and I was able to kind of get things back where they needed within a month, and from that point on, like once I did that, I was like, oh, well, that worked. Okay. So let me just continue. And I realized how much better that felt. I started getting more pleasure and joy out of that, out of the process of seeing my goals being met, out of the process of saving money, out of the process of paying things back, paying things off. Like it felt good to be like, oh, I'll pay my mom back in like 2 weeks, and I was able to just like give her money out of my next paycheck. And I was like, oh, that feels way better than it did when I had to ask to borrow it. And I was like, no amount of whatever I did to get in that to that amount of debt was worth the stress that I had to deal with. I remember being up late one night trying to find ways to make money, and literally I had to go to work the next day, and I was just online like how to make money quick, and like trying to find stuff like that, and watching that stuff all night, just hoping that one of them would work. Oh, I can post this on Instagram and make a theme page and do this and that. And I really thought I was going to be able to make like hundreds of dollars. I believed all those clickbait things. And yeah, like full transparency, that's definitely an experience I had. So I'm not in the clear. I'm not somebody who's never made like stupid impulsive decisions and thought, that I could just do it. But a lot of it was, I definitely had some mental stuff not being taken care of, and that's really what it was. Like if I would have taken the energy every time I went out to just tell myself how much I was actually going to spend, if I was just going to go out for dinner with friends, I could have just gone and bought a dinner and a drink, and I would have been fine. That would have been, practical, that would have been sustainable. But instead, I would go out. I wouldn't know how much I had even in my bank. I didn't know how much I could spend. I wouldn't know how much, I didn't like take the rent out first and then just play with my money that way. I was like, no, by the time the rent's due, I'll have it. And I kind of lived life like that for a while because it felt good. I was like, it feels good to just go out and have no worries, you know. Like, it's been a while since I've been scared to look in my bank, but I remember days like back at that time. I remember when I would be like dreading the app, and I would like, how it has to scan your face to open the app, and I remember letting it scan my face, and I would keep my eyes closed, and I would be almost like, I don't know if I was like really praying or like just kind of like, how when you have some urgent situation come up and you're like, oh please God, help me out of this, I'll never do it again, kind of thing. And I kind of had that kind of mindset, like my eyes closed and being like, oh God, like please, like let this not be red, let it not be negative, like let me at least have positive money. Or like, I remember cleaning out my car ashtray, and like I used to keep coins in different cups and stuff, and I remember taking those and recycling and like taking those coins to like a coin star, like a whole cup full, and I was like, all right, like this will get me my gas so I can go to work, the next couple days. And I'm like, dude, for somebody who's working a 40-hour work week, no kids, cheap rent, there's no excuse. But I did it to myself, and I knew, after a while, once I started listening to Dave Ramsey, that's when I kind of got more knowledge about like, handle your mental stuff. There's no shame in it. If you've got some emotional mental things going on, if you find yourself avoiding tasks that are for your lifestyle balance, then you've got something going on. Like, yeah, every now and then we might splurge or take a weekend and be like, I'm just gonna party. But if that's like a lifestyle, like once it becomes a lifestyle and you're like closing your eyes praying to the heavens that you don't have negative red balance, I mean, I can laugh about it now, but it's like that was the reality. Or like when I would see my credit score and I would look at the graph, the chart that would show like you know, it was always going down, 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 you know, and I'm like, yeah, I can laugh about it now, but I know for some people right now that's their reality, and I can tell you that you can get out of it. Like, you just, you know, you don't even have to pay expensive stuff to get help for what you need. Um, Now, I know some people like Dave Ramsey are controversial. If you're not like into like evangelical type stuff and all that kind of Bible Belt and all that kind of like stuff like that, it might be a little bit of a turnoff. But you can listen to what he says on the finance end, and I think his advice is pretty sound as far as like if you just need to get the ball rolling somewhere. Um, I mean, easy steps. You know, once you lose an attachment to things that you own, most of us have many things that we own that are worth enough money. Like, if I needed to make, not counting, okay, if you don't count processing times from like Amazon Prime, or like processing times for like how long something's gonna take to get into your bank or whatever. If you don't count that, most people can get $100 to $200 in a day, easy, just selling stuff, easy. Like, usually a lot of people buy stuff on Amazon Prime. I thought it was one of the only people, but I'm not the only one that gets a little into it sometimes. But I do have a habit of keeping my things in nice condition, and I usually tell myself when I buy something, I will not use this product for about, you know, not that I won't use it, but you know, I'm not gonna throw away the boxing, the wrapping. I open things nicely. I don't like rip through it, because the plan is if I don't find myself using this thing within the next 3 weeks, then I'm selling it back. You know, if I haven't got my money's worth out of this thing that I purchased, I'm selling the freaking thing back. I'm selling it. You know, I'm taking it back to Amazon. I'm returning it. You know, I'm not gonna, and I don't know if Amazon is gonna keep that up with their return policy. But at the point that I'm talking now, you get a full refund on this kind of stuff. With the exception of sometimes if you wanted something like faster or whatever, you might have to pay a couple extra bucks. Like, you might lose a couple extra bucks, or if you have to do the shipping yourself, you might lose a couple extra bucks. But if you live in the city, usually it's easy to find an Amazon drop-off place. So those are just the types of things that I learned that I wish I would have known. I wish I would have known that I had a problem and been able to admit it to myself. And trying to crawl out of debt is hard, but when you start realizing it works, and when you lose that attachment to the stuff that you don't need, and you can sell it, you definitely can improve quickly. You know, again, the there's going to be like that pending of like processing times and all that kind of stuff, or like if you have to ship something, you have to wait. Like, so yes, it's not going to be like immediately all the time. Like, if you put something at a pawn shop, it's not going to be that immediate, like cash in hand same day. But you can even pawn off all your crap, you know? Like, you can do that. Like, if you know, if you need the money more now than you need the full refund, you can usually pawn stuff, you know? And yeah, it's not going to be a lot of money. You can go to Coinstar and cash in all your coins, or go to the bank with your coins and not lose any money. And yeah, it's embarrassing, but you know, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be embarrassing. It's supposed to be embarrassing to go inside of a money debt place to like ask for a payday loan because you don't have any more money because you spent it all on, you know, getting your friends into a club or something. That's supposed to be an embarrassing situation. You know, it's supposed to be embarrassing to pawn your stuff, you know, because you bought too many Grubhub or Uber Eats orders, and each one costs almost $30, and you know, you bought 3 in a week, and it was nearly $100, and you need $100 now, and you're trying to pawn to get up to $100 so you can afford your rent because you ate too much other stuff when you could have easily just gone to freaking Taco Bell. Like, You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, like, but I'm talking to myself. I'm not trying to like say this negatively to other people, but I'm like, I had to have that mentality that I was like, I don't want to go into this stupid pawn shop because, it got to, these people knew me. At a certain point, they knew me. Like, they knew me. I remember once the cashier accidentally didn't give me, I don't remember if it was a $50 bill or a $20 bill that she was short. And I called and I was like, can I come back? Because, can I come back? Because, the money's short. And she remembered me because I was just there, but they remembered me because I'd been there multiple times. I was like a regular customer of theirs, just pawning off all my stuff that I purchased that I didn't need. Like, I was a regular, and there are certain places you don't want to have a reputation of being a regular. I would say pawn shops and payday loan places are the types of places you do not want to become a regular in those places. And so yeah, you don't want to become a regular. So yeah, like, it's one thing if you're a regular at the coffee shop, it's one thing if you're a regular at a restaurant. You don't want to be a regular in debt. That's not a high point. Um that's not something to be proud of, especially when it's not like, oh, my kid broke an arm, or some urgent thing like that, where it's like, okay, like, this is more on the end of justifiable versus like, I literally was just making bad impulsive financial decisions because my mental health isn't that great and I'm not managing my mental health. That's the reality of what's usually going on. Like, I'm stressed, I want to spend. I'm stressed, I want to take a shortcut, So it is good to have instant ramens and all. Like, yeah, I'm not saying it's healthy food, and some people are super health conscious, and I understand that. But sometimes I would do that. I would be like, let me justify paying $40 or $100-something for Instacart food delivery or for an Uber Eats meal versus just eating something quick and dirty, simple, that's cheap. Like, yeah, it's crappy food. Maybe if I order Veggie Grill, it's going to cost me at least $20-$25 at the least, if not more. I mean, I could go pick it up and it's going to cost me less money, or I could eat at home, or I could order Instacart with, however many days worth of buns and frozen veggie patties and stuff to make like a week's worth of veggie burgers if that's what I need. Like cauliflower mac, frozen cauliflower. Like, I can make my own meals, pay a little more up front through Instacart and get the little bit of groceries, but when you're busy, when you're stressed, it's easy. They've made it easy for us to take these shortcuts. And just because they're making it easy for us doesn't mean that it's the best of ideas. And it's easy to get sunk into a hole just doing these things and not paying attention. Like, literally, check the math. 3 to 4 Uber Eats or Grubhub type orders per week is $100 or more dollars. It's $90 to $100 for 3 to 4 meals. $90 to $100 for 3 to 4 meals. I mean, yesterday I went to Nijiya, which isn't even a cheap store, and I got 3 meals for plus some snacks and stuff for like $35. I got like 2 bento boxes, a little sandwich thing, and some chips for like $35 or so. And um, that's how much I paid. And sorry, somebody just came and parked like right next to me. But that's how much money I paid. And that's less than 2 Uber Eats. You know, I can't tell you the last time I paid less than $20 for Uber Eats because I tip like 15 to 20%. And then the fees are always going to get you. I don't think you can get an order that's under $20 in all honesty, at least not where I live. Usually ends up costing me 20, I want to say 25. I don't even know because I haven't ordered in a while, but usually it ends up costing me about that much. But I was out and about yesterday and I was like, all right, there's the Japanese market. And I just ordered from the Japanese market for food for the next few meals. And so I'm like, that is fine, you know, like there's nothing to be, you know, too concerned about if you're, you know, doing that, you know, like, yeah, it takes a little bit of out of the way, but it's like these meals, you just heat them up in the, you know, it's not that hard to heat something in the microwave. Stick something in the microwave, you know, right when you get home, go wash up a little bit, maybe change your clothes, go to the bathroom or whatever, and by the time you're done, the food is ready and it's hot and you can eat right away or whatever. You know, like sometimes I've been there in a space where I'm like, it's going to be too hard for me. It's going to be too hard for me to even, you know, I'm going to have too hard of a time, you know, even heating up a microwavable meal. Like, to me, that was a burden. But it's like, you know, suck it up sometimes, you know? It's like, dude, it's 2 minutes. Like, most things you order aren't going to take more than, like, 2 to 3 minutes to heat up. Most of us spend more time than that on, like, TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and all. It's like, dude, just heat your food up and get something that you can heat up. Sprouts, even if you want to go super organic like that too, like Sprouts has meals that you can heat up that are pre-made. And like, yeah, this stuff isn't cheap. It's not cheap either. Like, I've paid like 11, $12 for like a salmon dinner or like a, you know, something like that, or like $10 for a Big Mac meal at McDonald's or whatever. But it's like, that's still gonna be cheaper for you than Instacart and all that. Well, than Uber Eats. So it's like, you can still even do a little bit of a shortcut that gets you a little bit financially, you know, a little bit of financial distance, you know, like that gives you a little bit more distance to eat that kind of stuff, to eat kind of more instant heat up kind of stuff, you know, even if it's not the healthiest or the freshest. It's like sometimes, you know, I would find myself sometimes making that decision, and I would, you know, kind of lie to myself a little bit and be like, oh well, yeah, this Uber Eats delivery is like super healthy food, you know, which maybe it was, and it's like healthier than eating like instant ramen, but it's like that instant ramen is like a family pack of 5 Ichiban instant ramens, you know, which is basically 5 meals versus this one $25 meal, you know, that I'm still going to be hungry for 2 more meals, so I still need to eat 2 more times, you know, so it's like, you know, or if it's the last meal of the day even, but it's like, yeah, like it's not going to be my full day's worth of food usually either, so it's kind of like I can basically get my full day's worth of food for the same price as one order, you know, is what I'm trying to say. A full day's worth of food that's microwavable, you know, and yeah, a lot of people don't want to take the trip to the store or whatever, but it's like, and that's the whole point of these Grubhub type meals and Uber Eats and all that. I love it too. I love ordering that stuff. Like, there's nothing better sometimes on a weekend than waking up and just being like, I want a freaking breakfast burrito with like all the loaded toppings, and I don't want to get out of bed and get dressed and go get it, and I want it in 30 minutes. And, you know, there's nothing like that. But it's like, a lot of these things, these companies appeal to a lot of the problems that we already had in the first place. Like, most people in our nation already struggle with food choices. We already struggle with it. We already struggle with exercise and eating healthy. And these places make it easy to still avoid exercising or getting up or doing anything, and still avoid still avoid, eating. Like, maybe you might eat a healthier meal, but then, most Americans also struggle with like financial debt. And these types of habits, honestly, they contribute to debt. Like, a lot of people can't afford to do it. It just feels good. And so, of course, I'd rather do this because it feels simple and it feels good for now, but it has nothing to do with my future goals and future planning, and it can get in the way. And those are the hardest things to really be honest about. All these things I just said for almost a whole hour, for like 50 something minutes, talking about all these habits and patterns and things. Like, those are, for me, those were all the hardest things to break. Those were the hardest things to break. It wasn't, getting money and reaching goals and having money to invest and having money in my savings. That wasn't hard. The hard part was getting rid of all the other stuff that was getting in my way, and not handling the emotional stuff that was making me make these other decisions. It's like, I was the type of person sitting on over 100 something hours worth of PTO. It's like, dude, just take a couple days off, if you can afford it. Take a couple days off work. They were paying me anyways. Take 3-4 days off work, get your mind together. During that time, figure out a financial plan. Like, if you have to take time off work, especially if you get paid time and it's not going to affect your, like, anything at work, it's like, I literally had to learn, like, hey, I have these days off for a reason. Because when I'm mentally taxed, I'm not handling my stuff. And yeah, I'm handling my work at work, but everything outside of work is a mess. And I was just avoiding it, and I avoided it for so long that, it did me no good. So I would say, those are the best tips I can give. And of course, like, people always say, like, yeah, this isn't financial advice, but it's like, most people don't take that route. Most people are like, it's hard to get out of debt. Like, it is hard to get out of debt if you can't get rid of your stuff, or if you can't get rid of the habits that are keeping the debt maintained, or that are creating more new debt. It's going to be hard to get out of debt. For sure, that's hard to get out of debt. But, once you kind of evaluate your attachment to stuff, that was the hardest thing for me. I had stuff that I was like, if I sell, like, I did the math one day. I sat down and I was like, if I sell all these items, even if it's at a pawn shop, if I sell all these items, like, I can't remember the number, but it was a lot. It was hundreds of dollars that I was like, this is just a box full of hundreds of dollars sitting right in front of my face of stuff that I could get rid of today that would be cash in my pocket. Hundreds of dollars of cash in my pocket that I was like, I don't want to get rid of it. I need this stuff. But it's like, do you need to pay your rent? Do you need to improve your credit? Do you need to pay a bill that's like bogging you down? Do you need to get that kind of stuff back into shape? Is that what you need? Or do you need the Xbox games or whatever? Like, you don't need them. Like, once you get rid of them, you don't miss it. You're just like, hey, at least I can afford my healthy food now. I feel better. I can afford healthy food, and I don't have to go to food banks eating like canned goods and stuff. And I'm not knocking people that eat canned stuff. I'm not knocking people that use food banks. I'm not knocking people that go into payday loans. I'm not knocking people that pawn their stuff. I've done all of it. But the reasons why I've done all of it was not because of not because of some systemic oppression from, keeping me in poverty. It was because of my own decisions. I was making money, not a lot of money, but I was making enough money to live off of. Statistically, well, if you looked at the numbers, I was making enough money. On paper, the money should have been there, which it was not, because I was overspending and not using a budget and not focused and just spending and not tracking it and not making any kind of plan, because it felt too stressful to make the plan, but it felt also very good to just do whatever the heck I wanted when I felt like it. And so I don't know. I'm just saying, if I can do it, if I can get out of those kind of situations, anybody else can. But to me, that's kind of what money psychology looks like. And I feel like, Dave Ramsey touches on it a little bit, but this other guy, Ramit, I don't know. I don't know yet because I'm only going to be on the 5th episode coming up. So I don't know yet. Alright, guys. So my daily update, this is gonna go for April 27th of 2023. Thursday, which we so lovingly call Friday Eve. I kind of hit record. I wasn't really ready to actually start recording. I just hit record because I just need to record this. So let's see. So I don't know where I left off, but I guess yesterday I left off at about noon, because I had, I think I recorded until about lunch yesterday. No, maybe after. I don't know. Because I was doing laundry yesterday in the morning. Stayed home most of the day, but then in the evening I went out, like, by myself, just left the house. Did a little budgeting, financial planning. Usually that's a Sunday task for me, but I don't think I did it last Sunday, earlier this week. And so I was like, I need to get this done, even though I'm late on it. So I know what the next 4 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, I kind of know what things look like. I never want to be blindsided or, surprised, looking at my bank and being like, oh, that's not what I expected to see. Like, it needs to be pretty solid and very, very predictable. It just helps stress levels. I worked at my LinkedIn for a while. So I'm trying to get past 500 on LinkedIn. I think I was at 360 something, then I was at 377 yesterday. So I don't know how many I added. And then I preheated the oven. While I was preheating the oven to make some of these Sprouts organic bean and cheese burritos, I basically cleaned a little bit. Usually Thursday is like a cleaning day, but yes, I didn't clean last Thursday, so I was like, instead of going online for like 20 minutes and trying to like study like a paragraph or something, let me dust off some stuff. So I cleaned my floors in my room, and just with like a Swiffer. I didn't hit like every corner. Like, I didn't get behind like my amp or behind my bookcase, or like there's some little corners that I kind of missed. I didn't get under my bed, but all the space that I like actually walk in. And then I ate. That was for supper that I was making those burritos. And I think for lunch I just had like a salad with a little bit of this really spicy chicken, and it kind of wasn't enough food. So that's why I ate dinner early, around 4:30. Supper, I guess, technically, if it's that early, I don't know. But then I kind of let my food settle. I don't really remember what I did. Maybe I watched more Freaks and Geeks, I can't recall. And then around 6, I want to say it was around 6. I didn't write down the exact time, but let's call it 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I recorded some pods. And let me see, how many did I record? Like, I'm happy with the work I put in yesterday. I recorded some pods. How many did I record? 1, 2, 3, 3, and then my phone finally died at the fourth one, like 48 or so minutes in, so I need to see where that left off. But it was over 4 hours, maybe about 4 hours-ish. A little under 4 hours, like a couple minutes under 4 hours of recording. I probably recorded 4 hours because I kept thinking I was recording at a certain point when my phone battery had died, because it was at like 12% at one point, and then to finish recording I went and parked over by a school. Like, I was parked, like, I kind of took my car and parked, there's kind of like this open space, a little bit, where like people kind of like hang out. There's like this large lot where people kind of just like are there. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but basically there's a shopping center that's not a big shopping center. Like, it has stuff in it, but like gas stations and like stuff that like people don't really like stay at too long. And so I basically stayed in that parking lot till like 9 something recording. I would have gone to the beach, but it was really foggy. Like, the fog was totally rolling in, and I was like, oh, let me get a different change of scenery, different environment. So that's why I went to that area. And ultimately it was nice. And, you know, I got to see different things, like just people watching at the same time, people kind of, there was some weird stuff going on. But I clearly wasn't the only one that chose the spot to hang out. There was somebody who parked and kind of had their door propped in a way, kind of urinating on the side of a building, and then some other person parked and looked like they were going to take a nap, but then they left. Another person, I guess there's a way to get like around the back of the building, so there were some few cars every now and then coming out from the back of the buildings. A couple or two people that went to like walk their dog through the back somewhere, and then they came running, like not in fear, but they were running just like for exercise, it looked like. I don't know, something was happening in the corner, because there's like these adjacent walls and that form like this corner, and one car went over there and somebody got out and was like, looked like they were doing something, like handing something over the wall or looking for something or what. A couple people jumped over the wall at one point. There were some people just hanging out in the parking lot for a while, like 4 or 5 people. So I wasn't the only one who decided that this area was kind of prime region to just chill. But sometimes I'd rather just be outside, you know. But like, the weather's a little weird. Like, sometimes it's hot and then it gets cold, and it's like, so yeah. But I enjoyed that. But I started getting hungry because, like I said, I didn't eat a big lunch, and then I was up late. Like, it was approaching 9:30, and then I decided to drive over to McDonald's. Got a small snack, which was basically a meal. I got 4 nuggets and a pie. But calorie-wise, that's super high. And it was like 10 o'clock by the time I was eating that, because I went home because my phone battery died, basically. Well, I was like, I guess after McDonald's, the phone hadn't died yet, so I kept recording, but in a little bit of a different area by school. I was like, let me just finish this before I get home. And then I got home and ate and kind of chilled a bit, and then I don't know, I got like deep in my head last night and wasn't really able to sleep till like 1 a.m. Like I had some melatonin early, like probably around 10:30, which was early considering that I didn't get back till like 10, and then because I figured it would at least make me tired, but my mind was a little active, way more active than I wanted it to be, so that kind of overpowered the melatonin. But I do kind of try to take situations like that for kind of what they are. It's like I already knew. I was like, okay, all I need to do is go to sleep, and when I wake up I'll feel fine. At least I'll feel better because at least I'll sleep. So I just let my mind rock out and do what it was gonna do, and I was like, even if this is uncomfortable, I'm just gonna ride it out, and then eventually I'm gonna freaking fall asleep. I started listening to this episode by Kira Graves, the most recent one she posted about productivity. I didn't listen to the whole thing. I told myself I'd listen to about 10 minutes. I'd listen to 11, but it's like a 26-minute long episode. But what I had heard was pretty helpful, and she started speaking to just something that kind of I really resonated with, that sometimes if you're dealing with something difficult, that can be incorporated into creativity as well. And so it's kind of nice to hear somebody say it, even though I've heard it before and I know that. It's like, it was just nice to hear. So yeah, I had a pretty late night, and then I woke up, had a weird dream. Had some weird dream that one of my friends and me were like, I guess we were at the Forum inside, I guess, but it didn't look like that. But in my head, I guess it represented that, and we were, I don't know, there was some kind of event, but I don't know what it was. And we were walking around, and all of a sudden there was some problem. Like somebody was like after us, and so there was like security posted up all over. But I was like, how are they looking for us? Like, we didn't do anything. And like, but suddenly like we knew we were in some kind of big trouble for some reason. And like the security, there was like a lot of enforced security everywhere. And I was over near the bathrooms, and it was kind of like this weird, like some weird, like futuristic dream. And my friend was like, oh, did the people who alerted the security, like when we were getting caught, basically. But it was kind of calm because we weren't like resisting. And my friend was talking to the security, like kind of charming them, like, oh, like, so did the person who is in search of us, like, did they confirm anything, or did they tell you what was going on, or did they say that they were going to pay you? And they're like, yeah, they're going to pay us. And then they said how much, and it wasn't like a lot of money. And then my friend was like, well, I got like 700 here if you want to like just take my cash and just let us go, because we didn't really do anything. And like it seemed like that was gonna work, because they were kind of talking to the person next to them, and like I mean, these people were armed, but it was like video game armed. Like, it wasn't like any kind of thing I've ever seen, but I don't even know why they were after us. But yeah, that wasn't the theme of the dream at first. Like, at first we were just there for an event, then all of a sudden we were like, oh, there's not going to be a way to easily get out of here, you know, because somebody's trying to get us captured for some reason. Like, I have no idea what that was about, but you know, that's what happens. That's what happens when you eat McDonald's late at night and then try to go to bed. But yeah, just kind of like whatever. Sometimes I appreciate an interesting dream. Like, it wasn't like too scary. It was just like not super happy, if that makes sense. That was probably one of the most negative dreams I've had in a really, really long time, even though it wasn't really that negative. Like, I woke up and I wasn't like bothered, but I feel like I was dreaming all the way up until like 7 something this morning. Like, I slept till like 7 something, and I had turned on some Singing Bowls track before I went to sleep, but I guess I forgot to turn my phone screen off, so my battery was like at 20 something percent, 22% or something. And I like to leave those on because then it kind of shows me how long I slept, and it was like 6 hours or so. So I'd slept about 6 something hours, woke up super groggy. Haven't had coffee yet. It's like almost 9:30. It's like 9:27 a.m. But I got up, made some oats. Kind of got through half of the oats. Had some cacao. And decided not to have coffee, at least yet. Maybe I won't have coffee at all. I don't know. But at least not yet. And the cacao's nice. I think that was kind of a nice chill. I feel like the cacao kind of chilled me out, honestly. I don't know. Like, I know when I drink it at night, it's kind of a little stimulating, but in the morning, it's kind of like not as stimulating as like caffeine, and it mellows me out. Like, I use this, I always forget the name. It's called like Imalkesh or Imlakesh or something like that. It's in a glass jar, and I got it off Amazon. It's just pure cacao, just ground up cacao powder in a jar, and I just put a spoon in some hot water, stir it in. Today I added a little tad bit of coffee creamer just because I wanted a little flavor. We have the Silk vanilla coffee creamer, and so I added a little bit of that just to make it a little different, and it was delicious. And it was like really soothing to drink, and I really liked it. And I tuned in online just around 9. There's this guy I know, a pastor friend of mine, who does these morning, I guess it's like some kind of a devotional and prayer. And I didn't really want to, I'm trying not to have a lot of exposure to negativity today, so I didn't really want to listen to the prayer requests, because I was like, sometimes people, you know, are talking about some intense stuff, and I was kind of like, I don't really want to stay for that part. But I stayed on for like a couple minutes, and he was kind of talking about like kind of like your connection to like any kind of like spirituality or anything like that, like, or any kind of deity or creator. Like, are you like, how do you feel? Do you have a connection? Do you want a connection? Like, just kind of your ideas surrounding that. So I just thought, you know, I'd rather just take the idea and reflect on it. And I found it nice and helpful just to tune in and just like say hi to people. And was kind of talking to some friends, texting this morning, and also yesterday I was, I email with my brother, so we were kind of talking online that way a little bit yesterday, and I was kind of filling him in about all the online stuff I'm up to, and he's kind of like, yeah, it's a good idea that you're doing all that. And so I was like, at least somebody kind of gets it. But actually, he's not the only person. There are quite a few people, surprisingly, who kind of seem to get it. So yeah, but I'm gonna be probably kind of tired today. Didn't sleep early, and then I guess my sleep was a little rough. It wasn't like the best night, but I did feel very productive. But at least last night I was really productive. Before that, I don't know if I pushed too much or if it was the depth of the topics, but I think I kind of drug out something that needed to kind of stay put. But whatever, like, I'm kind of just like, whatever, like, it's going to be temporarily a struggle, and it's just temporary, and eventually it'll fade, and I won't care, and I'll move on and get busy doing whatever it is I'm going to get up to doing today or tomorrow. I haven't really planned out my day today. I'll probably get out of the house this evening, go to the beach, probably around 4 or so. I don't know, maybe earlier. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, I'm really not gonna, I'm gonna just relax, because I know I'm tired. And just kind of keep jotting down my ideas. I did do some writing yesterday. So I kind of want to expand on some of it. And I guess that's about all, honestly. Like, yesterday took a weird turn, but it was a creative turn, but maybe it had a little bit too much depth to it, so I wasn't really ready for that. But I don't know, like, that's all I have to say for now. It's still early. I'm just gonna rest and then see where my creative energy lands today. And with that, thanks for listening.